You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Hey, this is indeed Walt from the Comic Book Men, and you're listening to the iWalter Show.
All right, everybody, now settle down. Everybody, settle down, please.
Okay. All right, we have a big program. We have a big program today. Let's hear. Let's be respectful. Please be quiet so Debbie can speak. It's okay. Everybody, let's hear from our speakers. We have other speakers as well.
Thank you all so much.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Yeah, it's finally I'm going on the air. This is Walter from iWalter. Was going to do a show about 2 hours ago, maybe 3 hours ago. I've been running into a lot of complications. It is, it is complications. It is Tuesday, by the way. It's the 26th. It's 3:30 in the morning now. Now, I actually was considering taking off today, for a couple hours because, not that I'm a big cartoon fan, but I think I mentioned yesterday, because I believe it's tonight, or, it's around 4 o'clock. I'll be waking up around 4. Over in the movie theaters, they're actually showing The Killing Joke, the cartoon animated movie that's rated R. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, I wanted to find this soundbite and get it working. I had the most incredibly hard time doing this, and I finally got it to work. I have this garbage concert this weekend, too, and it's an hour down from my house with traffic and all. But anyway, what I played in the beginning, because I heard it on Rush and I was half listening, I wasn't really paying attention. And I think he did mention about Philadelphia. I thought it was like this past weekend, though, that Hilary Clinton was going to, was in Philly. But if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I think it's not until this, weekend coming up, which is the same weekend. Unfortunately, I got to head down the city to go, and I have to be there at 5 o'clock. Around 5, at least 5 sharp. Because I paid all this money to go get a meet and greet with the band Garbage, not realizing that, hey, Hillary Clinton's going to be campaigning or, in Philadelphia as well. So this is going to be, probably really hard. I think she's there on Friday night. This is until Saturday afternoon, but still, it's not going to be very pleasant. But I think I ran into that before where I went to a concert, and the day before it was Bernie Sanders in Philadelphia, and that wasn't too bad. It didn't cause too much havoc, so I hope it runs as smoothly as that pastime did, because I swear it was something with Bernie Sanders. Anyway, why I had to play that part was because, and I got to correct myself on a few things too, by the way, but this was from thehill.com. I got that soundbite from, by the way, and it was titled, Wasserman Schultz booed off stage in Philadelphia. So there's a whole thing behind this that Rush actually went in some, quite a bit of detail today. And I didn't put two and two together. That was my problem. Now, I think, though, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, or when you hear this, let me know. My friend Matt, it's an open invitation to, allow, I'm allowing you, no, I'm not allowing you, or whatever you want to say. I'm just asking you, correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody, But it seems to me that even this thing I thought was probably for Republicans was maybe more for the Democrat side. Either way, it's in our favor with Blue Lives Matter, because all this stuff seemed to come out on this past weekend. This was also in Philadelphia when they were protesting Hilary Clinton, and big time too, because something got exposed, and it was with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So this might be all related, and it is also with Bernie Sanders, that something got leaked out. Now, I think this just happened a few hours ago, this one thing, but I think it might have had something that it came out during the weekend as well. So there's a couple things, and I'm trying to put this in order, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to do the best I can, because I never read anything correctly, and I apologize about that. And then I got to correct myself on a few things I said yesterday. It's frivolous things, but I like to correct myself. Now, I'm kind of gloating on this. I told my one friend I'm kind of gloating because the one person at work who was a strong supporter for Bernie Sanders had no problem going over to Hilary Clinton after he was not, inaugurated or whatever you call it for the Democrat side. And that's called that comes through. I'm not really familiar with all this stuff. I'll let you know right now. But the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, and what got exposed, and I think this was partially, unless I'm wrong about this, was after Debbie Wasserman Schultz was shot down, I think in Florida as well as Philadelphia. She was they were protesting her because of Hillary. They just don't like her, apparently, either, I would assume. And something interesting came out of this whole thing, which, I think Rush was actually admitting to today, because it happened, I guess, it must have happened over the weekend. It's just, it was the weekend, so you're not going to hear about it, obviously, until Monday. Well, at least the shows I listen to, because they're Monday through Friday. I'm sure it was mentioned over the weekend. So the one from thehill.com basically said the Democratic National Committee Chairman Debbie Wasserman Schultz was repeatedly interrupted and booed Monday, so it was on yesterday, as she sought to speak to Florida's convention delegation. But this also happened in Philadelphia, because it does say July 25th, and it said booed off stage in Philadelphia. And now, this all goes back to Bernie Sanders, though. She was repeatedly interrupted on Monday as she sought to speak to Florida's convention delegation. Basically, it gets even more intense. Not only has she been getting booed off, there was another article I found that says Debbie Wasserman Schultz did not get promoted, and she's now she's not running Hillary's campaign. This was actually also on Monday. A lot of this stuff came out. Now, it's funny because I listen to Rush Limbaugh. He's always busting on Debbie Wasserman Schultz like she's a complete buffoon. And these articles are actually bringing this to light about her. So by them basically getting rid of her or forcing her to resign, because that's what ended up happening, meaning the DNC, she's now exposed things about Hillary is what I'm gathering. Let's see, within minutes of the announcement that this one article, this is not The Hill, by the way, this is from Daily KOS. This could be a leftist side, but it's got what I need, so I'm going to read it, or Daily KOS. Within minutes after announcement that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was resigning her position as chair of the DNC, the meme started circulating. Wasserman Schultz wasn't fired, but she got promoted. She wasn't fired, she got promoted. That's what it's saying. The folks are pushing this idea, point to a statement from Hilary Clinton. So it makes no sense there, because I just said she got promoted, but then in a quote, I guess it's Hillary's, it says, "I want to thank my longtime friend Debbie Wasserman Schultz for her leadership of the Democratic National Committee over the past 5 years." Clinton said a statement accepting the chairwoman's she resigned. I'm not going to say that word and mess it up. I already did. Started to. Wasserman Schultz served as a co-chair of Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, and Clinton said Sunday that Florida will serve a honorary chair of her campaign's 50-state program and continue to serve as a surrogate for her campaign nationally in Florida. Well, she got booed off in Florida. At least Wasserman Schultz did. And soon enough, the tweets were flowing. So, by the way, in Philadelphia, though, they were holding signs over the weekend. They were protesting Hillary, and they said she should go to jail. I think I might have mentioned that yesterday. Here's another quote, though. It says, it was still part of the setup. She walked right into a job with Hillary. This is Wasserman Schultz. She was promoted within minutes. She rigged the system, and knowingly Hillary, it says, is putting her in charge of her campaign. I guess they're making a joke about Hillary. At the risk of saying something boneheaded, obviously, beginning an honorary chair of a campaign, a position that involves no responsibility, no employees, no budget, and no duties, is not a promotion from being chair of DNC. But let's see, because I can't remember what DNC means. I got to look back, actually. I apologize. Democratic National Committee. So, being an honorary chair does not mean that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is in charge of Hillary Clinton's campaign. It doesn't mean anything. That is, unless you think that President Obama's 2012 campaign was run by actress Eva Longra or something, or former Republican Senator Lincoln Chafee, or high school guidance counselor Loretta Harper, all whom were among 24 people who served as honorary co-chair of Obama in 2012's campaign. This goes on basically saying that she was just there, I assume, to make Hillary kind of pretty much look good. And obviously that did not happen because people actually found out, and I think when this happened, that they kind of threw, she was expendable, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that she was an expendable person. They forced her, is what I'm assuming, to resign. She had no problem, or at least it got exposed now, about this whole thing with the emails. So I kind of mentioned this to somebody, and they at work, and they said, well, the email thing is not that big of a deal. I said, well, I think it kind of is. So I remember Rush actually talking about yesterday. He said he read about not only, I guess he might have went with thehill.com, but he was also referring something from WikiLeaks. It was like, what's WikiLeaks? I've heard of Wikipedia. I've never heard of WikiLeaks. So I had to look for that, and I did put it in because I looked at the transcripts from Rush Limbaugh's show yesterday. And what do I find? Hillary Clinton's email archive. I think I pulled up two things from WikiLeaks because there was two different articles. They're very short. I think I can possibly read these. Don't count on it. On March 16th, this is from WikiLeaks, by the way, just to let you know, 2016, WikiLeaks launched a searchable archive for 30,000 emails and email attachments sent to and from Hillary Clinton's private email server while she was Secretary of State. Yeah, it looks like over 30,000. The over 50,000 pages of documents span from the 30th of June 2010 to the 12th of August 2014. Over 7,000, about 7,500 of these documents were sent by Hillary Clinton. The emails were made available in the form of thousands of PDFs by the U.S. State Department as a result of Freedom of Information Act request. The final DPFs were made available on February 29th, 2016. So this was, by the way, a very big deal of what she did, which before one person at work said, oh, I'll vote for Hillary. My brother, I mentioned this yesterday, actually mentioned that he feels that Hillary has changed a lot, like she's changed for the better. It's like, well, after what was exposed today, I'll be surprised if she comes out smelling like roses after what they exposed her with today, or yesterday, I should say. Because this stuff was like really serious in my book. I mean, and the thing was, though, that got really, again, I could be wrong about this, but what I've gathered, after Wasserman Schultz was kind of thrown under the bus, she had no problem of exposing the whole thing with the, I can't remember now. I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to have to go back in my history. So give me one moment. It's about the DNC, which already I am such an idiot. I can't remember after 5 seconds reading it twice. The Democratic National Committee. She had no problem exposing the DNC, by the way. I'll just keep it at DNC. And I believe it's her. She exposed this whole thing, which Rush was talking about for a very long time, that this whole thing was a setup by the Democratic National Party. Now, he's mentioned in the past, Rush Limbaugh. He's been saying this for months, and it was like I kind of just ignored it after a while because he just mentioned it almost literally every day. And who knew that he was absolutely 100% correct on this? Even mentioned the stuff he did about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But he said that Hillary was supposed to be given, like literally from the Democrats. They were going to make sure she won 2 terms ago. And she got shot down. She got, she was supposed to get it before Obama did. She was supposed to get, be the one who won the DNC and get a position as president. So that did not happen. Instead, they decided to pick President Barack Obama. And now he's run for 2 terms. He can't run any longer. And Rush has been saying this for years, actually, as well, that now they have to, since they did not give it to her initially, they got to make sure she gets it this time. So this is where Bernie Sanders came in. They needed to put somebody to run against Hillary. Rush has said this in the past. He cannot just give he can't. The Democrats can't just give her the position of the presidential elect. She would have to look like she had some type of, in my terms, competition. So that's where Bernie Sanders came in. Now, the thing was, I guess, maybe to the shock of a lot of the Democrats, they didn't realize, but he is actually more, in many ways, he's much more popular than Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side. So that kind of backfired in their face then. They got somebody, and Hillary has to get it this time. They promised that she would get this position. This is what I'm gathering. And so the delegates that come from the DNC, you have to get so many delegates to be accepted or to get the nomination as the presidential elect. Well, for some strange reason, it just didn't add up to a lot of people. Now it finally did, where no matter how popular Bernie Sanders was, and this is what's pissing off many people that are Democrats that really wanted Bernie Sanders to win, well, it was never going to happen. This is what Rush has been saying for the longest time. He's been saying this for months, Rush Limbaugh. He said this is a whole setup. They have to have somebody run against Hillary. They can't just give her because it's going to look, obviously it's going to look very suspicious. And now it's come out. It's come to light that this is exactly what they did. Bernie Sanders was just basically a space filler, just to show, like, hey, wait a minute, Hillary just didn't get given this. She had to earn this. But again, Bernie Sanders was much more popular in many states that they won through. Bernie Sanders was much, much more popular than Hillary Clinton. I mean, I don't know because I'm Republican. I don't know much about this, but what I've heard about from Rush, and I'm putting it in my own terms, is, this wasn't, but it didn't matter because he could have, won all of the popularity votes. He would have definitely, no way in hell, Bernie Sanders would have never, I don't care how popular he was with the Democrats, voters, it didn't matter because either way, it was going to go to Hillary Clinton. All the delegates were to go to Hillary Clinton either way. And that's what came out, though. And I think, again, I could be wrong about this, so I apologize if I'm misinterpreting what I thought I heard and, kind of slightly read, didn't read properly. But what I've gathered, and again, my friend Matt, if you listen to this show, let me know if I'm wrong. But it definitely looks like, what came out, because Rush was actually saying, and I didn't listen to his show that I just heard a little bit in the beginning, though. And he said, hey, I'm going to play, and I didn't get that far on listening to the show, that he was gonna say, I know he talked about this. He had spoken about this for a long time, Rush Limbaugh. But again, it came out that the whole thing was a setup. That's the bottom line. This whole thing was nothing more than nonsense. There was no way Bernie Sanders was going to win, and obviously that came about. And who was the presidential elect for the Democrats? Who got the GNC? It was Hillary Clinton. And Rush said he knew that all along. He said he knew that was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. So, and that definitely, I think, again, came to light after Bernie Sanders lost, or after after that too. I think people started realizing this is bullshit for the Democrats. But we're really, I think, what I assume, because you didn't hear about this until miraculously Debbie Wasserman Schultz is forced to resign from her position in the GNC. So, and this is when Rush started talking about it. And this all happened over the weekend, I believe, and it really came out on Monday. So, that whole thing, and then the whole thing with the emails also came to light. So, before this wasn't an important thing, but, to this one person I work with. But, I can't help but kind of gloat about it. I was like, well, I asked this one person at work, and they said, oh, yeah, it's not, it's not a big deal. It's not going to affect Hillary, which it may not. But it doesn't matter at this point if it affects her or not, because the real thing is now that she, this is exposed, that this whole thing, this whole shenanigans it was from day one was a whole setup. There was no way once again that Bernie Sanders was going to get elected. And again, that sunk in with these Bernie Sanders, people who voted for Bernie Sanders. They're very angry. They're extremely pissed off because they're the one who got the short end of the stick. So they were protesting and they want to see Hillary arrested. And what was the reason why they want to see her arrested? Because of those emails that apparently they're not a big deal, though. Well, apparently they are to the Bernie Sanders diehard voters. They're not very appreciative of what she got away with. So, again, I found a couple, and I apologize because I lost these now because I actually mixed it in with some other articles. I just basically plainly shut them down. So, and I didn't do it intentionally, but it happened. So, I'm back on my Facebook page. And I wanted to discuss some other things, too. So, it's not going to be... And it's going to be... No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it's going to be a short show because every time I do, it ends up being until 6, 7 in the morning. But I did get so this is Wasserman Schultz was booed out of Philadelphia again, apparently in Florida as well. And then I had 2 links that I'm looking at right now from WikiLeaks that basically say that Hillary Clinton's emails. There are 2 different articles. So I got the one, which I read. I want to look at this other one now. Okay, the second one from WikiLeaks says, search the DNC email database. Today, Friday the 22nd, July 22nd, 2016 at 10:30 a.m., WikiLeaks released close to 20,000 emails. So this was just this past Friday. They released it's 19,252 emails. I'm rounding it up. And 8,034 attachments from the top U.S. Democratic National Committee. This is from WikiLeaks. Part of our new Hillary Leaks series, the leaks come from the account of 7 key figures in the DNC. Communications Director, looks like Lois Miranda. Looks like 10,770 emails. National Finance Director Jordan Kaplan, 3,797 emails. Finance Chief of Staff Scott Comer, 3,095 emails. I hope I make sense. I don't make sense to myself. Finance Director of Data and Strategic Initiatives, Daniel Parrish, 1,472 emails. Finance Director Alan Zachary, 1,611 emails. Senior Advisor Andrew Wright, 938 emails. And North California Finance Director Robert Eric Stowe, 751 emails. Now, the emails cover the period of January of last year until 25th of May of this year. So this is what they dug up on the WikiLeaks search and DNC email database. So again, this is a very big thing. This is a very big deal. This is not something no longer that can be swept under the rugs. This is all under Miss Secretary of State, who was Hilary Clinton, who is now running for president. And again, I mean, I have to make note of this is not a big deal, but she's exposing all this information for anybody who can hack a computer of really, really sensitive documents. I know at my job, people have gotten fired for, frivolous stuff compared to this because they don't work for the government. But there's certain documentation it's considered classified information at my job, or something that's that can't be thrown out in the regular trash or exposed to very easily, as Hillary Clinton did. And I know for a fact there's been people at my job that have gotten fired for not getting rid of things properly, or exposing sensitive documentation. Now, Hillary, though, not only gets away with it, but then she's also given every opportunity to make sure she'll win commander-in-chief. And how they do that was they, ignore everything that she basically caused government she broke the law. She's exposing sensitive documents for anybody who is able to hack a computer can do, which they did. So, yeah, so you can see all this information in a much clearer sense on WikiLeaks, which, again, I didn't know about until I started, listening to Rush this morning. It was let me see what he's got to talk about. And I thought it was just going to be another boring Monday. I didn't think there was going to be anything that great. But obviously I was proven wrong. But at the same time, I didn't do it intentionally, but I actually was proven right at the same time because a person at work that easily went over to Bernie Sanders, who thought this was not a big deal, that, with these sensitive documents, government documents that got exposed, obviously it really was. Now, again, I'm not saying anything's going to happen to Hillary. I'm just saying she did break quite a few laws and rules. Now, there's a couple things I want to get back to when before the end of the show. And it was a couple corrections. But you know what was funny? A friend from work actually posted this. I haven't seen her or talked to her in years, my one friend. But she actually put up, and I'm glad she did. I have to thank her for this, Renee. Limerick Royersford Spring City patch. She found this, and I am taking it pretty seriously. Residents within 10 miles of Limerick nuclear plant to receive potassium iodine. It's just a precautionary measure, but it still scares me. People who live in 10-mile radius of Limerick nuclear power plants may receive free potassium iodine tablets. Limerick, PA, people who live within the 10-mile radius of the Limerick nuclear power plant may receive these free potassium iodine tablets as a part of the Chester County Health Department's emergency precaution. Like a precautionary measure. The free tablets will be available on August 4th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. in Kimberton Fire Company, at the Kimberton Fire Company, on the corner of Pike Springs Road and Firehouse Lane in Phoenixville. And that's not that far from me. I think I'm over the 10-mile span, but it's still very scary that they actually are offering this kind of thing. Because it makes me question about these nuclear power plants that are supposed to be so safe. Again, I'm naive on a lot of stuff, so you can correct me. Authorities noted that the residents should not take the tablets unless they are told to do so by health officials or the government. Not every accidental radiological emergency will involve radioactive iodine, officials had stated. For more information, call the Chester County Health Department at 610-344-6225. So it's just interesting. I'll say that much. I mean, it definitely caught my my attention. I'm actually looking. I apologize. There's one woman that I have as a friend on Facebook. I might have met her, and I just don't know at these horror comic book conventions, but she's been liking my stuff just now. Linda, and she's a really attractive looking woman too. So she's got a lot of pictures. Since she was a kid till now. So as an adult, it's pretty cool. There's one actually I saw that caught my eye too. Also, Biospace has been put up a lot of stuff about the company of Merck Incorporated. Now, this one's kind of interesting, so I had to put it on Biospace breaking news. The company of Merck has been on the spotlight quite a bit lately. Now, this one says 400 plus women are suing drug giant Merck Incorporated over equal pay. I think it's a bunch of BS, but they're going to give into it, so that's on them. This is in New York. Merck and Company is under fire this morning after more than 400 current and former female employees filed a $250 million class action lawsuit against a drug giant, alleging gender discrimination and unequal pay. Attorneys for the plaintiffs said that within the past month, more than 400 women have come forward to join the lawsuit, bringing the total number of complaints to 405. Now, here's a problem I have with it. It was, let's see what's today's date. Well, actually, this was, I don't know why it came up now, but it was actually initially put up on this month, well, on the 22nd, because right now it's the 26th. So it was like 4 days ago, right? Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can see it. I just noticed it. It came up on like my viewpoint just tonight or this morning. My problem is when you have a lot of people that are sue happy and claiming victimization, what does that do to these companies? Because they're not going to take the loss. They're paying it and they're just get rid of these people. And I don't believe in this whole unequal pay, sexual discrimination on this part. I'm not saying that sexual discrimination doesn't exist. I'm just saying this is a bunch of bullshit. But what's it going to do to the rest of the people who work for this company and still want to have a job? Because they pay very well, this company, I heard. Well, it's going to have them lose their job because what are they going to do? It's like, well, not to deal with this anymore. We're just, a company like this will downsize even more than they have. Or they will downsize, but they're also move it to another place where people are just going to be tickled pink and thrilled to have a job that pays as well as a place like this does. And you know what that means? It's going to be going down to Mexico, overseas, California, where there's going to be less scrutiny given to this company. So people don't realize that they're going to ruin it for the people that are still at this company. The ones who have these big mouths are, unless you have a truthful, truly a valid point, which I don't think they do, you're literally just going to put more people out of work, not just a handful, but a lot. Anyway, this was pretty funny. Somebody posted this on Facebook on a different note. It was from heavymetal.net. And I thought it was a joke, a gag, but I think it's for real. Popular heavy metal TV show Headbangers Ball returning with new host, Justin Bieber. Heavy Metal's flagship program is returning to the airwaves this fall on the network, basically MTV, that started it all, MTV. Headbangers Ball is getting a brand new start with brand new host, none other than the devoted metalhead Justin Bieber. I mean, a man sings music that doesn't sound like metal to me, but yet he is into metal. So I don't understand that, and he sings with like rappers, so it makes no sense, but apparently he's a metalhead. So I think that's for real, though, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. My friend Matt from work actually found that there was a local high school, or is it a middle school, got struck by lightning. A tree did outside the building, the premises, just tonight, because we had a couple storms. So I had snagged the picture off his web link and put it on mine from Facebook. If you're familiar with Lansdale, it says, our favorite climbing tree when we were kids at Pennsdale was struck by lightning this evening. And I remember the storm. It was actually hailing, I heard, too. So sad. I believe it still had a couple of 2x4s nailed to from way back when, and now it's like completely demolished. It literally got knocked down, struck down by a bolt of lightning. So it's no longer. It's going to have to be removed because it got like struck at the very base of the tree. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I did want to correct myself again. Oh, I let this kind of go off. Sorry about that. That's why you heard my voices drop out. I got to keep an eye on my thing. It's probably going to be like less than an hour probably tonight, or maybe close to an hour, I hope. So I want to correct myself on that few stuff. No, maybe I'll try to remember, because I'm going to forget again. The mistake I made, again, it's very frivolous, but I did buy all this stuff from IKEA, put myself almost pretty much broke this week. It's only Tuesday now. And, but I'd rather pay cash and get my debts once again. The ones I have left, I want to get those down now. So I mentioned that I got this desk, and I like that idea, by the way, that IKEA now puts things together like you can build your own desk. I like that idea, so you don't get things you don't want on the desk, because you don't have to buy that stuff. You can eliminate what you don't want. So I was mentioned, I said, yeah, I got this lifter, and I made a mistake, I said, for my MacBook Pro, and it was like, it just rolls off the tongue. So why I mentioned this was, I do have a MacBook Pro, by the way. You know, the metal unibody construction. But no, what I actually meant was I have what's called the cheese grater Mac, you know, the full tower Mac that they don't make anymore. The last one rolled off production line in 2012. Now, those things weigh 55 pounds, and they're rather tall. So the thing is, I have a tendency, like I might have mentioned, as I spill so much crap on the floor all the time, that it's been more than once I've actually spilled water that went into the fans and could have done serious damage to the internal guts of my computer. But fortunately enough, the fans even blowing don't ever blow at, because Mac's about keeping it as quiet as possible, the machine. So they don't run the fans at full mass, or, you know, they don't run full, you know, you don't hear the fans. The only time that you ever hear a fan is if your computer, for some reason, like you're playing a video game or something, or running some type of editing program, it will force the fans to turn on at a much, much higher, higher speed. And then you will hear them. But being at a lower speed, it's not, bottom line is, the water that I end up spilling on the front of my cheese grater computer, the fans aren't spinning fast enough to have that water go like right through, you know, being blown through the fan onto the circuit boards or the motherboard. So that's actually in my favor there, because I've gotten very, very close more than once to pretty much permanently damaging like a computer that was worth a couple grand. So it's not cool. So again, I've been most fortunate about that, and I'm happy. But that's why, again, I kind of like having it. And if I spill water or soda or whatever it might be on the floor, the last thing I want to do is have it go, you know, definitely, you know, if there's enough water, go right inside my Mac computer case. So what I wanted to do was have it lifted off the floor. I said, hey, and for some reason I do catch myself. I listened to my show yesterday, and I'm not very clear and concise on what I say. And sometimes I'll start saying one thing, and then I go into talking about something else, which I wouldn't have noticed or wouldn't notice until I can actually hear myself, you know, on these shows. So that being said, you know, I did that yesterday, and one thing, it's a full-size Tower Mac case that I have, and I don't want it on the floor, because what if I spill, like, water or soda? I don't want it to be able to get inside the case. So I wanted some way to lift the case off the ground, like put a little pedestal or something underneath. So I tried to explain it, and I had a real difficult time, and this woman I was talking to at IKEA was just saying, I have no clue what you're talking about. She like basically bluntly said, I don't know what you're talking about right now, and I have no idea what you're trying to tell me. And she literally said that. That was a bit sarcastic. I'll say that. It's not very good, employee to customer attitude to have, but, you know, she was kind of like, I can see where she was coming from, playing the devil's advocate, because I had no clue what I was saying, some of the stuff I was trying to explain yesterday on my show. So I am trying to clarify it now. So that's the only reason I'm talking about, basically, this whole thing about the computer, because why would I put a laptop on a riser of something, you know, because it would be more difficult. It doesn't make any sense. So that's why I'm explaining that. And I do make other mistakes. That one maybe is, you know, not of any importance, but it is a podcast. So, you know, I try to look for things that I hope people would find interesting. I hope. I don't know. So anyway, I wanted to clarify that. I think there was something else, and I can't remember, so I apologize, folks. But another thing was, I did look at, because I didn't listen to all of Rush Limbaugh, so I kind of looked for things. And one of the things he did talk about was Bernie Sanders protesters swarm Philadelphia once again. He did mention about Philly. Hey, because I technically am in the suburbs of Philly, I'm going to, my ears perked up. But Rush said basically Bernie Sanders supporters are all over Philadelphia, I apologize, are chanting, lock her up. Anti-Hillary protesters all over the Democrat Party. Now keep in mind, this is what he's saying, Rush Limbaugh, we are supposed to get all of that Republican convention too. So, which is not working, because Bernie now is trying to tell people to go to Hilary Clinton, and it's like, people who believed in Bernie are going to be really pissed off with Hillary now that this whole thing was a setup just to get her, she was going to get it either way. They're pissed about that because, people who believed in Bernie Sanders, he was just there as a shoo-in. He was there so Hillary be the shoo-in. I'm sorry. So, this just stirred up the pot more. This, I would believe, would push people even closer, people that were Bernie Sanders supporters, push them closer towards Donald Trump. Because I've heard that. Now, the one girl that I talked to at work, who I did talk to at work, she went right over to Hillary. She's not going to vote Republican no matter what. But there is plenty of Bernie Sanders fans who don't feel the same passion she does for the Democrats at this point. They're actually pissed off. So I don't know. It will be interesting this November. Rush was talking about something. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I honestly don't know what it's all about. But it was yesterday. Trump's poll bounce rattles experts. So apparently, I'm looking at it, and it looks like at this point that Hillary should have had a shoo-in on Trump. Shouldn't have more of I'm trying to think of the right word, the possibility of getting elected. Like, she should have, if they would hold a presidential election today, Trump would win by a small percentage, but he would definitely win. I'm looking at it now. It says Hillary, she's got certain states who hold probably more electoral college votes or whatever you call it. I can't get that right. College votes. Anyway, her percentage would be, as of today, 42.5%. And Donald Trump would be at 57.5%. So he would win. Not by a landslide, but he would win by a good margin. So I'm looking at it. It says, choice for president as of yesterday, of Rush talking about at least as of yesterday. It says Trump 44%. Because there's two different things. One's CNN and another one's from somebody else, some other source. The one I just read was from another source. So I'm going to look at the CNN one now, and it says Trump would get, as of today, 44% of the votes. Clinton would get 39%. Johnson would get 9%. And it looks like Stein would get 3%. I'm not even sure of these other people. He put a big, lengthy article. I mean, he talked about it. It's not even a lengthy article. It's a transcript, so I apologize again. But it was really interesting to hear him talk about it. And honestly, it was way over my head for the most part. Even stupefied or simplified, it was still too complicated for me to understand. But if you cut through all what he was talking about, it's basically Trump would win. So that's all you need to know. And it's interesting. Not by a large amount. Now, one thing, if I remember correctly, Rush Limbaugh said that Hillary would win by a large margin just a few months ago, I think it was, or not too long ago. Maybe it's not even a few months ago. I don't remember. And I'm not going to go and read this whole thing. But at this point, that's a different story. She was not going to win by a large margin. In fact, she's going to lose by a small margin, but she's going to lose. So it won from her, and it might, I personally think it might be because what got exposed, I assume, from this whole thing with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I'm sorry, because I think Rush makes a joke and calls her Blabbermouth Schultz, so I'm always ready to say that, and I don't mean to, but I'm just letting you know if you hear a pause, that's pretty much why, because it wants to come out, me saying that. I think I posted the same stories more than once. I'm trying to go through my Facebook stories because I post things I want to talk about on my Facebook. I mentioned this before. My one friend, Todd, I've asked him in the past, I said, hey, you got to read this one thing about there is discrimination with the white males nowadays, and he didn't want to read that. So I had to go and dig up these stories, and what I ended up finding was another story. And it was kind of interesting. I was like, wow, another story on how it proves that the white male is the one who's discriminated upon. Actually, it's just called debate.org. And you basically go there, you can vote, but there's a lot of what people wrote. And it says, are white males unfairly discriminated against? And it basically, it's an open board, like a bulletin board. Anybody can put their gripes on and either agree or disagree. And I'm not going to read these because there's way too many. Well, anyway, it does say 89% of the people who did vote on this page, I don't know what that percentage equals out to people, 89% say yes and 11% say no. So somebody actually wrote, look around you, making distinctions between people based on race is inherently racist. Just because you doll it up and call it diversity, it does not make it any less racist. There are scholarships out there for every color person except for white people, and if you try to create a white scholarship, you would be labeled racist. So this is one, but there's at least a look up more arguments. Yeah, there's a bit. I mean, yeah, there's a couple. So if you want to read more, because that's just one. And, most cities are, again, these are for the argument that, yes, men are obviously discriminated upon. White males are being discriminated upon all the time. So I'm always glad to see something that kind of supports what I believe in. Now, I'm not, this one actually was an accident that I actually found this too. Because my whole intention was just to find the articles. I could not find it. I talked about this, and I had this argument, I forget. I think it was maybe last week at this point. I can't remember now. Yeah, it had to be last week. It's only Monday. So, hey, folks, again, just look for, it's a very easy link to remember. Just look for debate.org. It's something I've been complaining about and arguing about for, my friend Matt would laugh about this, but probably for years. And, now it's come to light with that, too. Now, even, talking about things coming to light, now here's another interesting one I had posted on Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders backers march against Hilary Clinton. Again, it's the one in Philadelphia, and it's a big thing. It's a different article. So you can find this actually on NewYorkTimes.com, an article how these Bernie Sanders fans are really pissed off about this whole thing. And I think Debbie Wasserman Schultz, going back to this, by the way, really put the last nail in that coffin. So I do have some other articles, but I'm going to try to keep focused on one thing. Actually, wait a minute, though. I did have another article I wanted to read. I found, and I thought, and it's not politics. I mean, I might have. Let me just make sure I got all my political ones out of the way. Oh, here we go. This one's not anything with politics, folks, but it was comicbookmovie.com, and it's a poll. What do you think of Batman's new Justice League costume? So Ben Affleck actually slightly, not, it looks like he just darkened it a little bit for the Justice League movie, his Batman costume. Ben Affleck's Dark Knight is sporting some new threads for his next DCEU appearance in Justice League. With a shift to his familiar black, do you prefer this look over the Batman versus Superman gray? So basically, it is pretty much precisely the same costume. It's just he's going from the gray, charcoal gray costume to black. I don't see much of a difference. They both look very cool, and I liked Ben Affleck's costume. I liked his acting. I'm not a big Ben Affleck fan, but you know what? He was really damn good. And I'm liking more and more. Justice League, I don't think I'm going to like too much. I think it's going to be interesting, though. I'm glad they're making a shot at it, or taking a shot at it. And again, they're going to actually eventually they want to do one on Harley Quinn. But that whole thing is with Harley Quinn, it's going to actually bring in the Birds of Prey, which is Batman's daughter, love child from, I think it was from Catwoman, is where the Birds of Prey come in. And there's some other characters. I think it actually has, if I remember correctly, I thought Batgirl, after she gets disabled from the Joker, is going to be in Birds of Prey. Was in the Birds of Prey umbrella of the Batman universe. But that's where Harley Quinn's going to have her separate movie. It's not going to be just Harley Quinn. It's going to be other people too. I know it's not important, but I had to lighten the mood, folks, because it was just like I felt it was a little too serious with the stuff I was talking about. Yeah, so again, I'm actually kind of psyched about the whole thing. So, with the movie, but one thing I actually noticed, I gotta save some picture real quick because I'll forget otherwise. One thing that actually kind of caught my attention, I didn't realize, but obviously they've always leaked a lot about the Suicide Squad because that's in the same universe too. I mean, they obviously leaked a little bit like too much information, which was not a good idea, but they just exposed too much of the film. I don't know much was going to be left. Like by the time you get there, the only thing that has not been exposed with this new film of Suicide Squad, I would say at this point, is probably about 5 minutes of the film. Like everything else is, you have not left anything to a person's imagination or what to expect in this film. So, this is going to be a slight problem, folks. But one thing that got exposed, I already kind of figured out now. It was like, okay, I knew this was a whole case that Harley Quinn is pretty much part of. She's made of the same material that made the Joker kind of just go really nuts when he got put into what it appeared to be like toxic waste. So, that I've actually now, kind of realized because they kind of showed you that this is the fact, is what happens to Harley Quinn, and like it's showing a little bit more of the movie. That you always have that problem. When you start exposing too much, you're giving more than just a little bit of the movie away. You're giving the whole entire thing away, and that's what they got to at this point. They did that since they started shooting the movie. Like they were every step of the way, like every day that they were, shooting bits and pieces of the movie, the next day was like up online, literally. So, and it was probably not a good idea because they just showed the whole entire film at this point. And me talking about it's not helping, I know. But the one thing is, it was something else that got exposed that it was like I didn't put two and two together, but it makes more sense now. I don't know if that's the perspective they're going with in the movie, or if somebody just kind of made like a fan base thing already. There's a fan cult following for a movie that's never been released yet. So, you know what? I can't remember what that was, but it was like, I'm going to have to look for it real quick. I'm going back to my Facebook page. So I know what I'm talking about. But when I saw it, though, it was like, yeah, you know what? This kind of makes sense. I think it was more about how he deliberately... Oh, okay. I think if I saw it correctly, again, it could have been like a fan thing. I found this thing that says all Harley Quinn scenes in Suicide Squad. So somebody compiled them all together. And it was like, but it basically gives the whole idea of every aspect of her in the film, of the character of Harley Quinn. So, yeah, I'm looking at it now. And it actually shows way too much even the Joker. Because, like, the Joker was supposed to be not, like, a main character. And he ends up... But what I see, which I didn't realize before, is by what they're showing in the film, it appears like there's this part where they show only bits of the movie where the Joker's saying to somebody... Because they don't really physically show. Somebody actually, they did release a clip somewhere that he's actually torturing Harley when he says, I'm going to hurt you really bad or something. Well, that's the psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum, I assume, of Harley Quinn. So the Joker actually, when she's still a normal person, before she becomes Harley Quinn, that scene where you see the Joker, played by Jared Leto, torturing somebody, you think it's somebody else, but according to what they're showing, that person is Harley Quinn. Or Harley. I mean, I don't know what that character's real name is. Because she's like tied down, what appears to be tied down to like one of these tables where they give you electric shock therapy. So... They are definitely taking a different perspective, and it's a very, very dark one. Now, I heard that film, they had to go back and shoot certain things because it was way too dark, just so they could get a lighter rating, because they had to add more comedy to it. So I can kind of see why, because this might have been omitted from the film, but by the looks of it, they show the process, which I thought was going to get a separate movie, which obviously maybe it won't. I mean, it's going to get a movie, but not to the extent, but how Harley is made. Maybe they will just go into more depth in her background. But yeah, it definitely shows her like strapped down to a table by the Joker, and he's torturing her. So, and they're making it very obvious, and then they show a even more in-depth scene of him finally, putting her in a vat of what do you call it? A vat of chemical waste, which changes her completely into this, this villain, and it makes her crack. So, I honestly, I don't know anything about the character. I never watched the cartoons, but I like the premise they're going with in the movie, and I'm kind of glad because I guess if I probably was like a diehard fan of Harley Quinn and those cartoons, I would not be too thrilled by the whole thing. But the fact that I don't know, I'm very naive on this. I have no clue. I just knew it was a character for years. You saw girls dress up like at the comic book conventions. And plus, I think Margot Robbie is really hot, so that definitely helps too. Yeah, somebody just posted something else up with her. So, yeah, I honestly really think I'm more intrigued just by how Margot Robbie is just being, is going to be in this film. I think it's going to be really interesting. I actually, again, I mentioned this yesterday. I mentioned this a million times. But honestly, at first, I wasn't too thrilled with the Joker because it's just like, this looks really goofy. It just looks like he's ghettoed out. But every actor has taken a different take on their version of the Joker. And I think it's definitely very different. But honestly, I don't think I was ever this intrigued. Like, at first, like, I couldn't stand it. I could not stand. I thought, this can't be the Joker. It doesn't even look like what I would expect the Joker to look like. But for some reason, it just really kind of like grew on me. And now I'm kind of like, the fact that he's going to play it like completely sinister. I mean, I think everybody kind of did. Obviously, whoever played the Joker, they play it with a sinister twist. And unless you're talking about the one from the 60s, that's a different story. That was just goofy. But I think his is just, I don't know how else to put it, but I think Jared Leto's Joker is just completely insane. I mean, the guy is a total nutcase. That's why, and he does make a reference, from what I understand, he does make a reference to the Killing Joke, which, again, it's out this afternoon. I did want to go kind of like see that, but I don't know. I'd have to take like a 2-hour personal or something because it's going to be 2 o'clock in this afternoon, which means that's when I'll get out of bed. And I'll have to call work before I would do this. But I'll see, because I also wanted to see Planet of the Apes, and that would be like a day off from work. So, but yeah, I wanted to lighten because I started out pretty dark and pretty gruesome on, politics. And, I apparently, no, not apparently, I mess up way too often on talking about political stories. So that's why I always say I'm going to stay away from reading stories, and especially political ones, and I don't. And also talk about that I won't read stories, which I always say I won't do anymore, and I do. Well, I think I just messed up there. But basically, things that I say I'll never do again, rephrasing it, I always do again anyway. Reading stories, which I always screw up on, getting the stories incorrect on the way they're supposed to be read, so I misgive information most of the time. And then I say, well, I won't do that anymore, and I do anyway. So, something like that. So, folks, it is very late for me, so I just want to say I hope you enjoyed what I discussed today. And if you do like it, continue to listen in. If you think you know somebody else who might be interested in listening to the iWalter Show, please get them to also tune in, because this is Walter. That's me. And I'm going to sign off for now. And, hey, check out The Killing Joke. Check out Planet of the Apes. That's playing this weekend. And this week, during the week, Planet of the Apes, Killing Joke, The Killing Joke about the Joker, and rated R cartoon movie. And then by this weekend is, if you're not into the political thing that's going to be around in Philadelphia, which I am not, then go see Garbage with Walter from iWalter. Thanks again. Signing off.